Hey guys, we are excited to welcome you today right here to Coffee with Clients. We are excited about this time together, and we're so excited today that I get to host this with John and Brittany, and we love that. And amazing Optavia coaches and leaders, and really just natural, fantastic teachers. And so we're really excited to be hosting with them as well. Now we're going to jump right into, I think personally, and John and Brittany, maybe you guys want to come off a moment and say, hey, but I just really feel like that element number 22, which is what we're covering today, creating optimal well-being. I think this is one of the most thrilling elements. I love it. It's very futuristic. It's very positive. It's very encouraging about focusing on not just one aspect of the program, whether it's fuelings or community or whatever it is, but really it's a much broader, perspective of creating and celebrating optimal well-being in all of our lives. So maybe John, one of you guys come off mute, say hello to everyone, and then I'm going to do a little bit of an introduction, and we're going to turn it right over to you guys.
Yeah, thanks, Rick. Man, we're so glad to be here with you guys. Welcome. I agree. This is a really cool topic. The last several weeks have been very practical, like very helpful in terms of looking at like what supplements look like and inflammation and these different specific, very practical areas of our health. And now it kind of takes a little turn. Like from here, there's this like transition starting with today's topic, just like you said, Rick, about looking to the future. Like, what does it look like now as we figure out all these nitty-gritty details of our health that we've been working through? Now it's like, man, how do we create that optimal life and that long-term, lifelong health and excitement, not just with our physical health and everything like that, but just in every area of our life, because we know it's all connected. Like it's all part of that big picture. So I'm really excited to dive into this and excited to share with you in just a bit. So take it away, Rick. You get us all set up and then we'll dive into it.
And look, John, I really love what you're saying. And one of the things that Jennifer and I have loved the most about Optavia, other than the personal transformation side of it, which is invaluable in our lives. I mean, how do we ever give enough thanks for that? Because it's completely remarkable. My doctor has told me that I may very well be alive today because of this program. How do you put a value on that? I don't really know. But one of the things I do love so much about Dr. A's vision about getting the world healthy one habit at a time, I'm so glad that the overall perspective is not getting the world happy one fueling at a time, but it's a much broader, comprehensive, challenge for all of our lives and well-being. Well, element number 22 is really an exciting one, creating optimal well-being. And one of the things that I love about this is in this element, he really challenges us to begin to define what really matters to us. And we know that as we apply these things, we are given that challenge of looking into the future, but looking at the totality of our lives and saying what really matters to us. The other thing in element 22 that I feel like is really great is it is also a time to explore kind of where we are, not just in our journey, because sometimes when we talk about our journey, many times when we're not careful, we relate that only to a scale. But this element reminds us that the program is about much more than a scale. We're not chasing a number on a scale, but this is really about exploring where we are in the fulfillment of our success continuum, moving forward into that place of complete optimal well-being and health in our lives. And then the third thing that I love about this is the empowerment to write our own story and to rewrite that. And so I love this element partly because it reminds us not to just reflect back and remember or rewrite where we were, but even in a greater way, it kind of calls us to project forward and dream and write for where
I am excited to share with you guys. When we began our journey almost over 2 years ago now, it's about 2.5 years ago, we quickly realized, just like Rick was just pointing out, right, that this journey is about so much more than just our physical health. It is connected to just about every area of our life, right? As we began to lose the weight and get healthy, we started to desire getting healthy in so many other areas. We believe we're created body, soul, and spirit. And when you get healthy in one area, it begins to affect all of the other areas. And we're excited to continue striving for optimal health ourselves, but just to dive into what this is going to look like for you guys. Sorry, my notes just disappeared here. Real life moment for you. There we go. So we are going to jump in here and we're going to talk about optimal health. And like Rick just outlined his favorite things, my excitement here comes from this being a crucial part in us being able to maintain this a lifelong transformation, right? This is what we're all striving for. We don't want temporary success. We want lifelong transformation here. So we are going to utilize that chat like Rick was talking about. So if someone asked you how you define success, what would you say? Put some of those answers in the chat here. Write down if you have notes. I want to hear some of the things that you guys come up with. How do you define success?
And, here's the interesting thing when it comes to success is that everybody's going to define that a little bit differently. Like it's not going to be just a one size fits all definition. Everybody has a different view in their mind of kind of what a successful life looks like. I think everybody is chasing this idea of happiness, this idea of peace and fulfillment. And you put all of this stuff together and it creates this big picture of success. You often sometimes it's the very end of life, like when you go to somebody's funeral, that really starts to put into perspective, and you start to think and you start to have those thoughts like, okay, when I get to this point, when I get to the final days of my life, am I going to look back and say, man, that life that I lived was a success? And if you can truly say that, what does that mean? What does that boil down to? We're a family of faith. So our definition of success definitely has our faith wrapped up into it. And there's a lot of elements that come along with our personal faith that kind of defines for us what that looks like. And I love just some of the stuff that's coming in there in the chat. Investing, so this idea of looking long-term, not just day-to-day, but looking at what a long-term investment of life looks like, hitting the mark that you intend to, having a goal and actually reaching it, reaching your goals, consistency, all of that stuff is great. Integrity is absolutely amazing. What are the other people around you going to say about the life that you lived? Being confident and disciplined, content in life, having a good quality of life. They're all such good things. So really think about that, because it's going to be important that you have a decent idea of what success looks like for your life, and whether you're kind of on track to hit that.
Most often we find these are more extrinsic motivators, right? They're things that you can kind of see, whether that be by comparison to others or goals that you're hitting, that kind of stuff. So those outside motivators that keep you on target for success. Okay, so now let's talk about fulfillment. So if somebody asked you about fulfillment, what would you say? Put those in the chat too. Write these down. We want this to be something that you can kind of take and look at after this as well. Fulfillment tends to be more of the intrinsic motivation, right? What comes from the inside? What are you fulfilled by?
Yeah, I think a lot of times when we think of success, just naturally our mind goes to a place of thinking about what other people view of us, like were we successful in the eyes of others. But when we think about fulfillment, you don't really have other people in mind when you think of that. You really think about, okay, am I fulfilled? Like, am I happy? Because it's possible to be successful in the eyes of other people, but not feel fulfilled at all. And maybe you feel unbelievably fulfilled in what you do and you're confident in that, but other people around you wouldn't necessarily say like, oh, you're a successful person based on how they define it. So when you break it all down, it's really interesting when you see the dynamic of those two things. And again, for you to understand, and we're going somewhere with this, getting you to think this way is really important for what's going to come next, because it's going to give you a really good gauge. We want to walk you through something that's going to help you to understand where you are with kind of the marriage and the combination of these two things, success and fulfillment.
Exactly. So if you have a piece of paper, I am not a teacher, but I am going to do my best to write on my whiteboard for you guys so you can see what I'm talking about. But Dr. A gives us an amazing well-being chart so that we can kind of use these two measurements that we just talked about to grade ourselves on where we are in a scale of either being depressed or fulfilled, successful, or a failure. So I want you to draw yourself a little cross here. You're going to get 4 quadrants. And at the top of the board, you're going to write fulfillment, okay? I'm going to do it with you so we stay on track here. Fulfillment goes at the top, and then we're going to write depression at the bottom. So kind of think the opposite of fulfillment would be depression. So then on your cross here, you're going to write failure on the left-hand side and success on the right. So again, the opposite of success would be failure. So you get a graph here. So between these two, we're going to rank ourselves on a scale of 1 to 10. So you do 5 dashes on one side, 5 dashes on the other side, and vice versa, right? So there we go. I can count. So our scale here, like I said, is going to be 1, completely depressed, right? 10 being very happy and doing exactly what we want to be doing. So grade yourself on that scale right there real quick. And then for the other scale, we're going to do a complete failure as 1. You are not hitting the mark, not hitting your goals or anything like that. Or your complete success. You are striving, hitting your goals exactly where you want to be. So figure out where you are in those 4 or 2 parts, and you'll find what quadrant you're in. So hopefully everybody's following along here. We are going to take that now and kind of figure out what that means, right? We're going to determine how aligned we are in life to give us a goal or a point. There we go. A judgment on where we are reaching optimal health. So if you are lower than 5 in both depression and failure, you're going to be over here in this bottom left-hand quadrant. That is going to be burnt out. You're depressed, you're failing, you're burnt out in life and everything, right? If you are lower than 5 in your depression scale, but you're higher than 5 in success, you're just worn out, right? You're successful, you're hitting the marks, you're striving towards your goals, but you're not feeling real fulfilled by things. You're on that depressed side of things. So you're going to be in this bottom right-hand side. If you are higher than 5 in depression, you wouldn't rate yourself towards the depressed, but you are lower than 5 in success, you are going to be up in this right hand. Did I say that right? Yes. No, over here, lower than 5. Yep, is upper left. You are going to be contented, fulfilled, but failing. You find fulfillment. You are not depressed. You are liking what you're doing, but you are failing your goals. You're not striving. You're not reaching where you want to be. And then if you are in this upper right-hand corner here, this is higher than 5 in both depression and, in both success and fulfillment. If you are higher than 5 in both of those, you are going to be thriving. you are fulfilled, you're successful, what you're doing is filling you up, you are energized, all of those things. This is where we're striving to be, okay? So maybe you didn't get a chance to really dive into those options just yet. That's okay. This is meant to be something that you can really think about. Take the notes. Hopefully you wrote all that down. Go back, jump on the YouTube channel if you didn't get to participate fully, and do this later, because this is something that we want you to really come back to and dive into. If you do it intentionally, it might be a little uncomfortable. Might bring some stuff up that you're like, oh, I didn't really think about that. Or maybe it's like, I actually feel relieved because I can put into words how I've been feeling and I haven't been able to do that. You might feel validated by your results. Maybe some of you that did that, you might be feeling a little nervous because you're like, well, now what? Glad I know that. What do I do now? Or hopefully you're feeling a little bit empowered too, because we have the ability to do something about this. We can change this. If we're being honest, when we did this ourselves, we felt a little mixture of all of those things, right? It felt good to be able to identify why we felt so drained and empty at the end of most days. But it made us a little bit nervous to think about what we were going to have to change to feel more fulfilled and satisfied. But the tools that we learned while on this health program, the relationships that we built with our coaches and our mentors, we knew we had the ability to change where we were. It was that community, it was those tools, it was those things that made the difference in this just becoming more than just a diet plan for us, right? It was taking all of those tools and expounding on it and taking it, like Rick was saying, to that long-term look into the future way. To many people, too many people, really, if we're honest, too many people submit to where they are in their lives and almost becomes victims to believing that this is just the way life is, right? Everybody lives their life this way. Shortly after we became coaches, we heard Karen Schatzline say, I am beginning to fall in love with the sound of my feet walking away from things that no longer serve me. And I get chills even saying it now, almost 2 years after hearing it. When I heard that, that lit a fire in me, because I was 100% someone believed that how life was going, where I was in life, was just going to be how it was going to be. This was my destiny. I was going to be stuck in a demanding full-time job that was robbing me of time with my kids and overflowing with so much stress and anxiety that even when I was with my kids, I didn't get to be the mom I wanted to be. I felt like that was just the future that we had, right? But what I heard when I heard that quote was, I get to decide whether or not that is my future. I get to decide whether or not I'm going to allow that to control the rest of my life. Friends, we have the ability to become the dominant forces in our lives and make these changes. And you know what? You are already doing this in your health. When we started the program, we had gotten to the point where we said, enough is enough. We are sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, and we can do something about this. And I hope that you guys give yourself a round of applause, a pat on the back. You feel proud about the fact that you have made the decision to do something about your physical health, and let that empower you for the fact that you have the power to do something about the other areas of your life as well. Losing the weight just lit a fire in both of us to make sure that we were showing up as the best, that we were showing up the best John, the best Brittany, the best dad, the best mom in all areas of our life. For me, that ended up meaning leaving my full-time job because it was preventing me from being the mom that I wanted to be. It meant investing in our family's overall health by building boundaries that allows us to be the very best family that we can be. What did it mean to you?
It was, well, to be honest, I actually ended up leaving my full-time job as well, to be able to prioritize those same things. And it's even a look into it's a look into the future. You know, when you like getting on this health journey is such an empowering thing, because it starts to, you know, our health, whether it's, you know, whether your goal is to lose a whole bunch of weight, or whether it's to just get healthier overall, whatever that looks like, as you start to make progress towards that, chances are that it's been something that you've dealt with for a long time, and something that you felt absolutely stuck in. And now all of a sudden there's this glimmer of hope that, wow, you can really change it. You really can move forward and take control of that. And what it ends up doing is it messes with you a little bit, because it starts to get you to think, man, if I could conquer this thing that was such a major obstacle in my life, what else can I do? Like, what else can I move forward in? And it just has that trickle effect. And it's so true. And you should be thinking those kind of things. So it means the world. So even for me personally, and looking forward, it's like, man, where do I want to go? Like, the status quo doesn't have to be what I'm stuck in. I can look at those things and I can take risks, and I can put boundaries in place, and I can do all the things that I need to live the kind of life that we feel that God is calling us to live.
Mhm. For you, it doesn't necessarily have to mean you quit your job. It might not mean that at all. You might be in the perfect place for you, but I'm sure you're kind of thinking, okay, what does this mean for me though, right? Look back at what you said fulfillment and success meant to you. Write those down. Keep them in front of you. Find your passion or renew your passion. Maybe you've kind of lost it if life gotten in the way of your passion for finding those goals, or maybe your dreamer isn't working, right? You don't really remember what it feels like to dream and set goals that you can reach. Maybe you need to find a new hobby or learn a new skill, or maybe it's just going back to a hobby that life has gotten in the way of, right? And doing something that you used to find very enjoyable. Maybe you need to jump into the arts, learn a new instrument, go to museums more, find what fills you up, reconnect with nature, get out of the house, get out of the office, be outside, be relational. Man, that's been something that has been very important to us. It fills a huge value for us. Maybe you need to just set a standing dinner date with friends. You make it a placeholder and a rock in your schedule so that you can prioritize those relationships. Whatever is going to fill your cup, whatever is going to define success to you, that's where the fun begins, because you get to do more of that. Thanks, Rick.
Wow. Brittany, I want to come back there just a moment.
Yeah.
Somebody in the chat asked if you would give Karen's quote again.
Absolutely.
So I'd love to take a moment and have you share that quote again for everyone listening.
Absolutely. I am beginning to fall in love with the sound of my feet walking away from things that are no longer for me.
You know, and Jennifer and I remember hearing that quote from Karen as well. And it's such an impacting quote and statement that's true for all of us. I love the chart that you did. And I was sitting here doing mine while you were going through that. And I didn't know what you were going to do any more than anybody else did. But I hope everybody took a moment to write that down. A couple of things that it reminded me of, Brittany. I know in Dr. A's writing on element 22, he began to say, you know what, money and material things will never bring us happiness if we weren't happy before. I think a lot of times people think, well, if I just had this or that, then my success or my fulfillment level would be happier. The other thing he emphasized is that really and truly in life, there's not a whole lot of security. So I love your and John's story about the investment of time and life and all of that. And it's not always about money. It's about fulfillment. It's about that feeling. The other thing that you made me think of was also Dr. A, he's told the story several times, it seems like, about remembering our ancestors. He says from 10,000 years ago, you know, and they would go out and hunt. They would rest when the sun gets high, and they'd sit around at night and tell, you know, stories around the campfire. Well, that's who doesn't want to live that right now? You know, every time I hear him tell the story or I read it in some of his writings, it reminds me that so much of our lives are so hectic and running and doing and busy, and we live for the weekend only to get 24 hours into the weekend. And then we're faced again with the reality that Monday is looming over us. And so it just really matters. So I wanted to ask you, Brittany, on this little chart, when I was charting mine out, and to be honest, I wasn't really where I would like to be, you know, but when I was charting it out, I thought, now, and I think this was your point, how do we take a practical teaching like this and take it beyond just the little chart? And I begin to say for me, okay, Ricky, you're not where you want to be just yet. So what do you need to up that scale level to maybe not to go in one quantum leap to where I want to be, but how do I take that next step forward in my journey to optimal well-being? What is something that I can do to take that next step? And I know I'm putting you on the spot, but I'm perfectly comfortable because I know you can handle it. So what would you say is that next step?
Yeah. I will give my answer, and I feel like if you want to jump in too, I really feel like it's more sitting down and really digesting this, because as we wrote down what defines success and fulfillment for us, I think we really need to look at the flip side of that. If we're not where we want to be, why don't I feel fulfilled? Why don't I feel like I'm succeeding? What is holding me back from that? And then that what is holding me back from that gets to be where you try to find a change, what you can do. So if maybe it's a job, maybe it's time balance, maybe it's friendships that are missing, maybe it's relationships that are burdening, whatever those things is, that's going to be the key. And I love that you pointed out, don't make a quantum leap, don't go crazy, right? Set that next step. Well, okay, what's the first thing that I can do to address that part that's holding me back from where I want to be?
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly it. I think a key to all of that is having it defined for you. So maybe even when you do your, you do your chart up here in fulfilled and up here in success, maybe you write all of the descriptive words of what fulfillment looks like. Write those words down. So you have fulfillment, and then you have a whole bunch of words of the things that define that. And same thing for success. And here's all the things that define that. And then maybe where you're at on the continuum, you write down what your present reality is. Like Brittany's saying, like, be in tune with, okay, well, why aren't you towards those things? Now you have a starting point, and you also have a point that you're reaching for, that you're looking ahead for. And then from there, it's just a step at a time. So what's one thing, as you look at that fulfillment category, you look at where you are and where you want to be. What's one thing that you can do now to move you in that direction towards fulfillment? And then same thing for success. What's one thing that I can do to move towards all of these words that define success for me? And if you can just do one thing at a time, all of a sudden you're going to get to a place in life where you're going to look back and you're going to be like, wow, look at how far I came.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll jump right on that, because it's one pound at a time that we lose our weight, right? We didn't wake up a combined 90 pounds down. It was half a pound at a time. And so if you're looking at, and I just want to break it down into a baby step, maybe if you're looking at like, yes, my job is keeping me from being the mom I want to be, or the dad, or maybe the hours are just too demanding. Maybe the first step of that is, I'm going to stop checking emails after 5 o'clock. Maybe you just put a simple little, I'm not going to be available 24/7 anymore. Maybe just break that down, right? Because obviously you can't just quit your job tomorrow. As much as some people would like, sign me up, I'm good with that. That's not attainable, right? But figure out how you can start to, like John said, that one baby step. How can you do that?
Well, and I love that. And the other thing is, John, when you were talking, I felt like success is almost fulfillment. I mean, you see a lot of people that are successful by many people's standards, but on the inside, they may or may not feel really fulfilled. So I really love that. And for me, I wrote that I really need to be more intentional about my time to carve in, because I love how Dr. A in this element 22, how he emphasized, even as you did, Brittany, in the teaching, and that was how he emphasized Maybe you need to take an art class. Maybe you need to carve out a little bit of time in your day to do something that you value that will help bring you fulfillment in some incredible way. Okay, guys, thank you so much.
That's awesome. No, we just want to say we're proud of you guys. And we're grateful for you to be here. You dive into it. Keep diving into it. Your one-on-one mentorship, your coach is going to be your number one resource. So keep working with them, keep plugging into this community, and we can't wait to continue to cheer you guys all on this journey. So have a great day, and we'll see you guys soon.